Hi guys, Reform UK friendly GB News got schooled on their favourite party's chances at the next general election. William Atkinson, the assistant editor at the influential Conservative home website, got into a bit of a disagreement over the chances Richard Tice's party will have in winning seats at the next general election, even if the current leader is replaced with Nigel Farage. Now, this was part of a bigger discussion on the current implosion of the Conservative Party and if there will be yet another leadership contest before the next election. Have a listen to this.
Reform UK have said they will not do what the Brexit Party did in 2019 and stand aside for the Tories to sweep to victory. They said they're going to stand in every seat bar Northern Ireland. How much of an impact is that going to have on the election? And will it, as some suggest, hand the keys to Starmer to number 10?
I don't think it will simultaneously sort of hand the keys to Keir Starmer. I think there's a significant enough number of, according to the opinion polls, voters considering switching from the Tories to Labour or directly from voting for the Tories to not voting at all. That Labour's lead is already quite substantial. And I would say also Reform UK has been something of a damp squib so far. It hasn't been very successful in either local elections or by-elections. I think all of that might change if Nigel Farage returns, as is rumoured, in the next few months to lead the party.
Well, they're polling ahead of the Lib Dems, William, in some sectors.
The polls, and that would look particularly dicey for the Conservative Party.
Sorry to interrupt. You said they've had not much success, but they're polling ahead of the Lib Dems, and they would argue that.
Well, I think the Lib Dems have won several by-elections during this Parliament, so I think it's the difference between short-term voter apathy being transformed into telling the pollsters that they'd actually vote for Reform UK to them actually doing so in practice, which, as I say, so far has been a rather distant prospect for the party. I think also they're not particularly well run, and I don't think their media operation has been particularly successful either. I don't think their sort of current combination of Lib Dem-style constitutional reform and harping on about lockdown is really what the sort of public are particularly aiming for. And I don't think it's actually going after the sort of voters that they should be looking for, which are those sort of red wall types who want higher government spending and sort of a more sort of socially conservative approach to everything from immigration to woke issues. As I say, I think, Reform UK remains something of an irrelevance, but that might change if Nigel Farage comes back to lead them.
I'll just briefly push back on their behalf. I mean, you say they're not particularly well run, but most of the operation is the Brexit Party, which the Tories begged to stand aside in 19. And also UKIP got 4 million votes in 2015, which was a massive surprise, albeit they only got one seat, but they did attract the vote share.
Well, I think that's the crucial thing, though. In politics, it doesn't matter if you're racking up a large number of votes if you're not actually getting any seats. Which is why I think, UKIP, remember, in 2015 managed to rack up 4 million votes, but you still had a Tory majority. So if I remain sceptical that Reform UK, under their current leadership, and indeed perhaps under Farage's as well, has the sort of political nous to stand where they're needed to stand and actually direct their resources into the sorts of seats they might actually win. For all its sort of faults, CCHQ has been historically far better than that, which is why the Tories have been far better at winning elections and why, as I say, I think Reform UK currently remains something of a damp squib.
And he's completely correct. Now, I'll get to the problem I have with the strategy in a moment, but why is Reform UK an entity in the first place? And I've said this before, I think it's about moving the Conservatives further to the right economically. The donors of both the Conservative Party and Reform UK want a future Tory government to be even further to the right economically, cutting taxes for the rich, funneling more money into the private sector. That's what they want. And the backers of Reform UK believe that if they give the Tories enough of a bloody nose at the next general election, they will be able to perhaps convince the right wing, the far right within the Conservative Party, to take up the mantle. Now, the strategy doesn't make any sense. This idea of fielding candidates in every constituency, bar Northern Ireland, and I mentioned why Northern Ireland was interesting before, but candidates in England, Scotland and Wales, knowing that these candidates will not win their seats. It makes more sense, even if you have very deep pockets and you can pour huge amounts of money into this next general election, it makes more sense to focus on seats that would embarrass the Conservatives. For example, Rishi Sunak's seat, or Suella Braverman's seat, or Boris Johnson's old seat. This would be a better strategy than saying we're going to field candidates in every constituency, because you can't campaign in every constituency like the mainstream parties can, like Labour can and like the Conservatives can, because an election is extremely expensive. Now, the approach could be just to flood the internet with ads, buy lots of Facebook ads or YouTube ads or even TV ads. They could do that, but you need to have someone on the ground. And I don't think Reform UK have that. You need a huge membership base and you need a huge team of people to go out and bang on doors, meet with the public and explain your policies. But Reform UK don't have that. So I don't know what's the point in fielding candidates in every constituency as opposed to using whatever teams you have, whatever resources you have, and I'm talking about people now, have them focus on particular constituents. It doesn't make any sense. Now, probably the sort of loophole here, the caveat, is they may go down the same road as the Brexit party did. Field lots of candidates, but have the candidates themselves put up the money. So it's not actually the party that is investing in the candidates, it's the candidates themselves. Now, if somebody is a Reform UK candidate and they're not getting support from the party itself, they're an idiot. Because you know you're going to lose, you're not getting support from the main party, and you're putting up your own money. Now, I don't know if this is the plan. I don't know if this is actually happening. But if it did, it seems to have happened back in 2019 with the Brexit party. And there were a lot of candidates who were told to stand down, who didn't get their money back. So it could be a case of asking candidates, look, you run as a Reform UK candidate. You're not going to get any money from us. You put up your own money, but you'll have the brand. Well, that's doomed to fail anyway, because you need to have people on the ground. You need to have people knocking on doors, people meeting with members of the public, explaining why the voters should vote for you. So if they don't actually have some sort of real strategy, it's going to fail. But as I said, it would make more sense to focus in particular seats, pool all your resources into those seats, a bit like a by-election. And then you would have a better chance of embarrassing the Tories. Because if they spread their resources too thinly, they're not going to pick up any significant votes, and it's not really going to split the vote. It's actually going to help the Conservatives. Unless that's the plan. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.